People, Deluded, I'm back again. Look at this guy playing with his mic, man. We got Alex in the building. We and you have a lot to discuss in these 45 minutes, man. From injuries to Berta to Gyokeres to Saka's return and the rest of it. You say, my boy, you good?
Lots to do. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Huh?
You in a new studio?
No, it's the same one. I need to fix up all of this sort of stuff, man. I need to take a leaf out of your book, mate. I need to take a leaf out of your book, man. How you doing, though, anyways?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, very excited to be here. Excited to talk a win, which is nice. It doesn't feel like we've spoken about many of those. You know, we've had 10 draws.
Yeah, I'm very aware we've had 10 draws, man. We talk about fine margins.
I think I just put
9 points as well.
I think I just put those in the sort of the bin, and I was looking at the table there. I was like 10 draws.
Madness.
Wow. So yeah, let's talk about a win.
Let's talk about a win. And you know what? You throw me off, because my brain is starting to calculate the amount of draws and whatnot, man. I'd say the one for me that was unacceptable probably be Aston Villa. Some of the draws within the context, like City, we can do with it, but it's all about fine margins, man. You got a tan in it.
Have I?
You look like you got a tan, man.
Yeah. I've been trying to spend more time outside.
Maybe it's the lighting.
Maybe it's the light. Yeah, I've got a little bit of sun. I'll take that though.
Yeah, man. Let's start with Fulham, man. We won 2-1. We didn't keep a clean sheet. I was at the game, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, we could talk about how the Saka thing was then, because I'd love to know. But yeah, I think it was a game that, to be honest, in the first half, actually, I thought people would probably skip over it because of the Saka thing, because of the way the second half played out. But I actually thought the first half was all right. Like, I'm not sure we learned anything particularly, but I felt as though I described it yesterday, like the players on the outside of our team. So the Salibas, the Gabriels until he went off, but Timber, Lewis Skelly, etc. I felt we were stressing them, we were moving the ball at a good pace. All the stuff that when we do lose or when we do get frustrated against these types of teams, I'll always say, why aren't we moving the ball a bit quicker? Why aren't we playing with a bit more intention? Why aren't we putting the ball more at risk? And we actually were. I thought a lot of Lewis Skelly and Timber's work down the right-hand side, the left-hand side was really good.
Especially Timber.
Yeah. I think he was being really penetrative, which is what we wanted. I'm not sure the central players were offering that, but that's a different conversation. But in general, I thought we were all right, and we were controlling transitions well. Got the goal, a little bit lucky with Marino, but again, we've probably missed that luck a little bit.
You earned your luck. We earned it yesterday.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, it's kind of Mikel's game model, isn't it? It's like put the ball in the box enough, and eventually something will fall for you. And that's not been quite working for us for this season. But yeah, I think, I'm glad to see him. I think that's 4 and 5 from Marino, so I was pleased with that. A couple of breakaway transition moments that were a little bit scary, but I think the big lesson, the big talking point is Saka, mate, right?
You said you wanted me to tell you about Saka being at the game, and it's testament to how great Saka is, and it's also testament to what it means to the football club, in that I don't know where to start with Bukayo. I'll start with the beginning. When his name was, when you go to the game from the beginning and they announced the match, they scored the subs, etc. When Saka's name was said, there's certain players in our team and that have been here before and be here after. They will score a goal and you will not hear a roar like that at the Emirates. So I don't know which was louder. I don't know if it was the pre-game. There was a moment, I'm sure it captured it online. He's like, the game was on and he was warming up, and Iwobi and Calvin Bassey showed him a bit of love, and that provoked a roar. Obviously, when he came off the bench, there was mad noise. And then when he scored, there was madder noise. So I can't lie, it was a nice moment. It's a touching moment from Bukayo Saka and for the football club, even when he went to, the medical staff to celebrate. And I must admit, I'm like, as much as I'm still no doubt going to have concerns about Saka being back, not so quickly because he's ahead of schedule / on schedule, but as much as I think we need to manage his minutes and we have concerns, he looks fresh. He looks like he's never left. Like, he literally picked up where he left off. Like, you know, obviously being at the game, you know, when you're watching it on TV, the camera's following the ball in it, obviously, so you can't see everything. There was a point when Saka came on in that I was just watching him, and I saw physically he looked good. He still looked like he hasn't lost anything. Couple of rustiness, but he looked mentally good. He looked like he looks very fresh, and I would love for Mikel Arteta to kind of just give us a bit of an insight in relation to Bukayo Saka's kind of rehab and that, because genuinely he looks fresh and fit, and you know, that's probably the one optimistic point from yesterday, man. He looked good. Talk to me about Martinelli. You know, I love him, man. Like, you saw the nutmeg, you saw the assist. It was mustard, man. Broken clock can be right twice a day.
just quickly on Saka, I think the thing you said about the physio thing is massive. I wouldn't be surprised if they did film some kind of 3-month doc. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't. I imagine
we'll lap that up, man.
Mate, I will. We will be there. I will say, like, I actually weirdly think Saka is arguably at peak confidence right now. It's weird to say after 3 months out, but I think the way he was holding himself, the way he was dealing with himself in the stadium, a lot of the close-ups, you just felt like, you know, that thing we've been talking about for probably 18 months. I know we've spoken about it before. We want him to sort of puff his chest out, want him to say, I am that guy.
I'm that guy, man.
I think he's got to that point. So I'm not saying he's gonna. It's been there for a while, but I think games like yesterday, I saw that swagger and I saw that sort of confidence. And I talk about like the Bayern Munich tie last season. We went into that. I feel, well, I can only speak for myself. I went into that saying Saka is a world-class player. Actually, I might have been he's not quite world-class yet agenda, but, you know, hear me out.
You're not alone. I was saying that.
Yeah. So, you know, we were on that cusp, right? You know, maybe it was that sort of, he is world-class. Is he the guy? You know, maybe it's Martinelli, maybe it's, you know, Odegaard's going to pull something out, maybe Declan Rice. There's no doubt it's Saka. He's
the guy, man.
And I think it's easy to forget how quickly that's changed. And I think going into that Real Madrid tie now, there is no doubt he owns the stadium, he owns the club, he owns the franchise. This is the face of the project. This is our version of Cristiano Ronaldo for Real Madrid, or Messi
Black David Beckham, man.
Barca, or Beckham for, you know, back in the day. And you know, I'm not comparing them as players, but I'm saying the importance to the team. And yeah, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. And yeah, he's at, you know, getting a stand named after him level, isn't he? I think Martinelli. Yeah, look, I want to exercise caution. I will say, I was talking to George on.
No, fuck that, man. We're not urging caution with Martinelli. We're running agendas, man.
Well, he is very much in Martinelli's camp, and he's going. Well, he wasn't, but I think there were some people, maybe George a little bit, going, "This is what I mean." Just personally, I think we need to be. It's one game, and he's cooking Timothy Castagne, who is not one of the best fullbacks in the league. And I've seen a lot of issues this season that I want to see solved. However, just in isolation, that game, if he can keep up that level of production, keep up that level of invention, keep up that level of before his assist, he like runs the ball. There's a moment in decision making where I know he would normally pull himself wide, and he cuts himself in, which I loved, and I felt for a long time he's not quite done that. He's finding himself inside at the back post, all those sorts of things. If he can keep doing that, if he can keep showing that level and finding his Brazilian passport, whatever you want to say, that's really exciting. That's really exciting. It's one game, so let's calm down a little bit, because it's back. But yeah, I think he was really exciting yesterday, and credit to him, because I've spent most of this season saying he wasn't doing all those things he did yesterday, and he did. So credit to him.
No, banter aside, man, you're right in that. We've kind of piggybanking off what you're saying about Saka and tying into Martinelli. Like, Saka is inevitable. We need this every game from Martinelli. We've been on a long road. I think Martinelli makes no sense. I do think yesterday we do talk about the left-hand side, and make no mistake, Mikel Arteta's got to kind of fix that, but he had a lot of freedom. I don't think he makes any sense in that. He had a good game, but some of the things, like the basics, he struggled with, like he's falling over the ball at times and whatnot, and then he's pulling off that nutmeg and that instinctive kind of assist. I do think Martinelli's good when he doesn't have much time to think. I think the more you kind of give him in front of him, he struggles. But then I think about someone that's 24, played 200 times for this football club, over 100 times in the Premier League. The best footballers are very calculated. And going back to what you said about Saka, the man's inevitable. And going back to what you kind of said about Fulham, I wouldn't say it's a nothing game because it isn't a nothing game, but they set up with a 5-4-1. I think they showed us a bit too much respect. There was a couple of isms and schisms, like when they were threatening on the counter. I think when we'll get on to Gabriel, but I think when Gabriel Magalhaes came off, they grew in a bit more confidence. But other than that, it was a nothing game. It was one-way traffic. And we always talk about the fine margins. If I had to kind of hone in on that game, I think Lewis Skelly had a great game, but towards the end, the guy looked knackered. And I think Mikel Arteta could you have just brought on Tini, because when Sessegnon came on, I do think that was the only positive. And there was a good moment in the Fulham game, because naturally the game's the game and the Fulham fans are just bantering, but they were like to Saka, you're just you're just, what do they say? You're just a shit Harry Wilson, just before we ultimately scored. So that was lovely.
I didn't hear that.
No, this is why I like being at the games. And I must admit, credit to Fulham, but they're the first set of away fans that I haven't heard at the Emirates, man. I mean, Fulham are nice guys, man. So, yeah, I think you're right with Martinelli. I think you're right with Mikel Merino. I think you're bang on the money with Bukayo Saka. I don't think we learnt anything per se about the game. We're kind of at where we're at on one hand with injuries, and then at where we're at with another from a tactical front and technical front. But we cut the lead to 9 points. Hopefully, the footballing gods make something happen. And now I wake up and we move on. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take the smile off your face, bro, because we've had 4 injuries in one day. I mean, in a week. You know, Calafiori's out. We all know who is missing. Timber picked up a knock. Gabriel Magalhaes picked up a knock. We've got Everton away to deal with, and we know what David Moyes is on. And then we've got Real Madrid. Like, what do you make of the Timber and Gabriel stuff, man?
We'll have to wait and see.
Speechless.
But I mean, it's just so indicative of this season, isn't it? It's just I'm really frustrated by it. Look, I don't want to go too hard on the club, but it just feels like we've had non-contact hamstring injury after calf strain, after muscle injury, after whatever. And like when that's all happening over the course of a season, we have to be very careful as fans with injuries, because we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what the player. We don't know if the player's in the red zone or not. We don't know if they're playing too many minutes or not. We don't know. You know, we can guess at calendar and what they're doing in training and all these sorts of things, but we are guessing. So I think anyone who, I will say this, anyone who's like, this is why it's happening, we need to be careful. What we can say as fans is what has happened, what we're seeing on the pitch. This level of injury crisis cannot continue. So however it works, whether it's more rotation or different profiles of players or
just a bigger squad.
Exactly.
We'll get onto that.
I think Arteta's even said. I did see an interview with Arteta early in the season where, because there's so little time between games, they have to rest so much that they're not using the muscles in between games, and that's causing issues. But that's true of a lot of top clubs, and it feels like they're all getting injuries. So that's what
the game's becoming, man. Look at the fixture calendar list for club and country. We're seeing expanded tournaments. I personally think not that we're owed these injuries, but where you look at the hamstring knocks and things, maybe not necessarily in isolation to this season, but it's like an added on filler. I think when you look at the previous 2 years, what the vast majority of these players have played for club and country. I'm no physio, but I can't say it surprises me per se. Gabriel Magalhaes, Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, those kind of ones in particular, there is a lot of stress. Personally, I'm a bit nervous with Gabriel Magalhaes because, like you said there, we have to kind of wait and see what's going on. But I need you for Everton away, and I definitely need you against Real Madrid because you're the leader. Yeah. With the greatest of respect to Lewis Skelly, who me and you both love, but he's a young man. Kivior, who I think on the face of it, a couple of hairy moments, but did well. I think I need that leader against Real Madrid. I think if there's one area, regardless of how we felt this season, that were somewhat okay, it would have been the defensive ranks. And with Jurrien Timber, I mean, he's probably in with a shout of being our player of the season. I think he's done well since he's come back from his ACL. But I'm pretty sure if we spoke to the medical staff, Mikel Arteta, and actually Timber himself, he's probably not necessarily games, but he's probably played more minutes than he probably would have expected, or in an ideal world we would have liked. So we're kind of at where we're at. And then you throw Benjamin White in there. And crucially, what you said there, in that this can't continue because we can't keep watching the same movie expecting a different kind of ending, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. However we do it, I don't know. I was just looking at the numbers there. Yeah. The amount of non-contact stuff that's going on. It just can't continue. And
Madness.
yeah, I feel like at a loss at like, you know, what the answer is. And often I see people say, it's definitely this. I'm like, bro, you don't know. Like, you literally don't know. It's like when people say, oh yeah, no, Mikel said to Tim Lewis that he wasn't a fan of the player. Oh, you were in the conversation, were you? All right.
Or like what they were saying, or Edu, like you on one hand, we get good players, and I'm not praising Edu, but we get good players. There's nothing wrong there. We get bad players, or we don't get anyone. Arteta's asking for players, but Edu this and that. Like it's all speculative, man. It depends what narrative you want to run with and what like kind of confirmation bias you're seeking. What I would say is crucially what you said there in that it just can't continue. It just can't continue because I've seen. We'll get onto it, but Mikel Arteta mentioned it again. But like at least at 3 points last season, he said we've got one of the smallest squads, and he keeps saying 19. When you look through our 19 squad, who would you really say is durable? Even our durable players, apologies, are being not running to the ground, but are having injuries. The Timbers, the Gabriel Magalhães, the Sakas, the Ben Whites, etc. And then when you look at it on the flip side. Unfortunately, you know Zinchenko, Calafiori so far, Tomiyasu, Gabriel Jesus, Tierney's on the peripheral, but Tierney, you know these kind of guys are going to pick up knocks. Thank the Lord for Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly coming to the fore this season with the chances presented to them. But I just think we need a bigger squad, man. I think everybody needs a bigger squad, man. You know, like these players are not getting any rest. The last 2-3 years, even with COVID, there's been international tournaments, club competitions and international tournaments are being expanded. You know, again, I'm sure every Arsenal fan wants us to be in the Club World Cup at some point. That's been expanded. I think this is the belly of the beast. And on one hand, I do agree with what Mikel Arteta said before in that, you know, the best players are going to play 70-odd games, but I think we need a bigger squad. So that's on the recruitment front. And I would say for Mikel Arteta, maybe at time, and again, it's easy for me to say I'm not the manager, but be a bit cute and clever with the rotation. But then it's a double-edged sword because playing the same team and having that consistency has got us to this point. And I just feel like as much as I want Saka rested, for example, bro, or Gabriel Magalhães, the drop-off is too big. And I actually want to ask you a question because I streamed late night after the game, yeah. Obviously, we need Gabriel Magalhães and Bukayo Saka against Real Madrid, right? Who's the bigger loss, though? Like, who would be the bigger loss? Because I was arguing, obviously, Saka's back, but I was arguing, you know, Saka's your match winner. He's got the Stardust. He can nick you a game, kind of, you know, piggybacking of what you said earlier. He is that guy. But then I think defensively against Real Madrid, you need that. And I think it's Magalhães, you know. But where are you at?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think you could argue it both ways. I think for me, probably it depends who's available to fill in for Gabriel. Like if it's Kivior, then it's Gabriel. But I think if you can play, and this is kind of piggybacking off what you were saying there, like it's not just that Gabriel's injured, it's that Tomiyasu's injured, it's that Ben White's injured, it's that Calafiori's injured, it's that, you know, like, and this is the big problem this season is that I think we actually, if you look across the squad, there's probably like 2 players that are pretty unusable in many contexts, like Tierney, Neto, I guess. Like pretty much everyone else could be used in certain contexts in certain games. But when you don't have Calafiori available for half the season, or Tomiyasu available for basically the whole season, or Zinchenko for periods, or whoever it is for periods, you stress other players. And I think this is, you know, to come to the question about Real Madrid, I genuinely believe with a fully fit squad, one injury like a Gabriel, we can deal with that. We you know, and I would say that about Saliba, I'd say that about Saka, I'd say that about whoever. It's just when you have clusters of injuries in the same position, that's when you know, and this is the thing is people say you've got to deal with injuries. No, you absolutely do. If your left centre back falls over, you need to have a decent idea of how to replace him. If you're onto your 9th choice defender to replace him, do you think maybe there's some grace to be had here? Like it's, you know, and people want to slam Kivior, which I get, but I said this on an instant reaction yesterday, and I got a little bit killed for it. It's kind of the Cedric Suarez effect where.
Oh, don't say that name, man. I thought we got over that. But go on.
Cedric Suarez, and please listen to what I'm saying. Cedric Suarez was spoken about sometimes like he was the worst player to ever play for Arsenal Football Club. Cedric Suarez wasn't at the level. He wasn't good enough for Arsenal. But because he was basically the lowest, he gets spoken about like he was literally like worthless and, you know, Mustafi, you know, Squillaci level. He was fine.
Worst players played for us is Gallas. I'll stand on that. But that's for another stream.
Exactly. That could be a whole show. But yeah, I think Kivior, because he's not Gabriel, he's fine. He's okay in possession. He gets a little bit rushed, I find. I think he can get stressed when you run at him. But he's all right. He's got a decent left foot. He can switch the ball. He makes decent decisions in build up.
Should have that if you play for Arsenal in your Polish international.
Okay in the end. No. I'm not saying he isn't. But the idea, I think there is this thing of like Kiwior is just worthless. It's like, well, no, he's good. He's a decent player. He's just not Gabriel.
And he's just not Arsenal level. He's not shit.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think, and that said, I still think if Kiwior plays, then Gabriel's the bigger miss. But yeah, I think Calafiori would do a good job in there. I think Tomiyasu would do a good job in there. I think I'd be happy with a Ben White centre back partnership with Saliba. And yeah, let's just see what happens, because I from what I see or have heard, Ben White wasn't far away. Timber just couldn't continue, which, you know, maybe if we manage him for the Everton game, who knows? Might have to play Partey right back, which is going to be horrible.
Well, we saw that yesterday.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. And Calafiori was like a grade 1, I think, so he shouldn't be far away. So yeah, we'll see.
If we assume Gabriel, Magalhaes and Timber is out of the Real Madrid tie, what's your back five? Obviously,
and sorry to cut you. Tomiyasu was there at the end last night.
Yeah, he was. I just wish I could see him on the pitch, man. You know, I love Tomiyasu. He's been, you know, he's only played 6 minutes, and I do feel like for some of these players, with the exceptions, obviously, of the Tienis, the Gabriel Magalhaes, the Sakas, even Odegaard, Benjamin White, Kai Havertz, the more durable kind of players, you know, I give everybody grace because no one wants to get injured, but at the same time, injuries do happen, and these players are the more durable ones. But then we've got kind of the injury-prone ones, and I do think moving on to next season, I kind of want to see this kind of eradicated. Obviously, I'd love for everyone to be fit, but I'm at the stage of kind of acceptance, and I'm going a bit left with my point, but yeah. I expect and accept and we'll get onto it, but if Zinni's here, I know you're going to be missing. So far, I know Calafiori's going to get knocks. Tommy, I know you're going to get knocks. I've got a lot of time for Trossard or Martinelli, but I don't know if you're ever going to be the wingers that I want you to be in terms of the numbers. So I'm at the point of acceptance. If I accept what you are, if you're going to be at the club, how do we utilize you? Obviously, with Martinelli and Trossard, that's being in the squad, and that's making sure we've got depth. But yeah, man, you didn't answer the question, bro. Like, assume Gabriel, Magalhaes and Timber are out for Real Madrid, yeah? What's your back five? Obviously, Raya in goal. Saliba's there. Helped you with 2.
So Gabriel and Timber are out.
Yeah,
and White's fit?
You know what? Go on. We'll go White fit.
Okay. I would probably go Partey right back against finishing.
Crazy, isn't it?
Jesus Christ. But that's probably the best answer. And the thing, when you what's annoying as well, mate, is that he'll get skinned and people will say this is disgraceful. It's on Arteta. He's like the 9th choice right back. What do you want him to do? I think Lewis Skelly, Saliba left centre back because he plays there for France. Ben White right centre back. Partey right back. And that's not pretty, but without Calafiori, without Tomiyasu, without Gabriel, without Timber, I think that's probably the best you can do.
What would mine be? Mine would be obviously Raya in goal. Fucking hell, man. I'm actually going to have to think. Raya in goal. Ben White right back. Raya in goal. Ben White right back. Saliba and Kiwior, Lewis Skelly. Just because I need Partey in midfield. I don't think you're necessarily wrong or I'm right, but I just think there's too many moving parts. I feel we've got a dysfunctional defense. I'll kind of want to have a functional midfield of some point, or a first choice kind of midfield, because Arteta's got, as you know, Arteta's got his work cut out anyways with Real Madrid. We'll be here all day talking about Carlo Ancelotti tactically, how good Real Madrid historically are, you know, the voodoo they have in the Champions League, the way they've kind of performed in the league, and all the comments in between. But there's no right answers, is there, really and truly? Like, Arteta's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't in that regards, man.
Yeah. And also, he has built this team to be pretty versatile. But when you have your guy in Tomiyasu can play basically 4 positions. I love that no one's mentioned Zinchenko. Hilarious.
Yeah, we completely skipped over him.
Yeah, and Tierney as well. You could play Tierney, but Miles right back.
No. Leave him left back. even with Lewis Skelly, like maybe it's just a fitness thing. He's played a lot of minutes and he's had a great rise in prominence in the 8 months, but he looked shattered in the second half. And I just look at the boys, like naturally, all players of all teams, you'd be hard to find a single play, obviously even Saka, that isn't feeling some degree of a knock or a niggle, or I don't think any footballer is 100%. Yeah, I do think, well, I mean, death sentence is a bit extreme, Ahmed, but I do think Partey at right back is scary against Vinicius. Not that, respectfully to Benjamin White, but even Ben White scares me, and I hope to God Timber's there. Alex said a great point. I completely forgot about Tierney. It's a bit of a weird one because Tini's obviously experienced. He's a traditional defender. He could come in and do well, but I just don't feel right without Lewis Skelly. And that's before we talk about our striking options and whatnot. And side note, yeah, I think one thing I liked about Wanyeri yesterday is he's not, obviously he's got to go through all the rise and stuff that Saka did, but it's like he's accepting that I'm a Premier League footballer. I did like how him and Timber were working from a footballing point, but there was a couple of times Timber was shouting at him, he's shouting a bit back, and obviously that's with him relying to the greater good of the team. What's your choice then if White does not play? Harvey, you're asking difficult questions, but you know what? Go on then. Let's assume White's not there then, Alex, man. Then it is Partey right back in it.
God.
It's Partey right back. I'd say my same lineup with Partey right back. Who plays in midfield? Only God knows.
So what would your centre back partnership be? Kivior and Saliba.
Kivior and Saliba. F it.
Honestly, I think against Madrid, it would depend. I'd maybe stick Deck at centre back. Which would
I mean, we're getting to that. We are getting to that territory.
Like, and people will say, well, why are you putting him out midfield? I'll tell you why I'm putting him out midfield, because we don't have Ben White, Gabriel, Timber, Tommy, or Calafiore. It's 5.
You don't want to see Kivior against Madrid at all, do you?
No, I don't. And I just think Rice and Saliba at centre back would give us some stability, and then you could play with maybe Odegaard, Marino, maybe Trossard in the midfield. You could do something, or Wanyeri in the midfield. You could do something.
Odegaard, Marino, it scares you. That scares me. I think, one thing I have liked, I do think this is Marino's best kind of period at our football club. Yes, he's playing up front. And yesterday was the first time that, obviously he scored, but across the 90 minutes, I think he did well. Like, even if I said his highlights, I think he did well off the bench against Chelsea at the Bridge a few months ago. I think he did well against Liverpool. There's evidently been others, but yesterday was the first time I just think you was on it. And if anything, me and you have cut him a lot of excuses and tried to be a bit kind to him. But I would say with someone that's a supporter of Marino, I would say you're a bit more timid than I thought. I thought you would be a tiny bit more tenacious and combative than what I've seen. But I think he really had a good game. I think he will get lost in the noise with what we just said about Martinelli, with the injuries, with obviously Saka's return. But I like that from Marino. The kindest thing I would say to him is, obviously, I want to see you not play up front, but it kind of is what it is. We've been alluding to it, yeah? And I want to kind of move this on, yeah, because I know we've got 45 minutes. Berta has been officially confirmed, man. Would you make of that? Like, yeah, man. All your thoughts.
I haven't even mentioned your tabs.
Fuck off, man. Just
I'm not going to say anything that's particularly groundbreaking. I think he's a really good appointment. I think it's certainly on paper. Ultimately, again, so much of this is down to chemistry and how he works within the organization, which a lot of stuff is we don't know. What I do like and I do feel quite comfortable with is this is like in the same way that we need a striker like an Isak or maybe a pairing like a Williams or whatever, Šeško, whatever you want to do. This feels win now. This feels like we are signing this guy to go and win major trophies, ASAP. This doesn't feel like a Jason Ato or a Labe or someone who comes in. He's more a project, continuity and stability and long-term planning and all these sorts of things. Berta feels like the guy in the room from everything we know. Also, I think as well. I saw this tweet going around yesterday, and it's the classic example of misinformation. It was like Berta's best signings at Atletico Madrid or biggest signings at Atletico Madrid, and the quote was like, the first two should get you sacked on the spot as a supporting director.
I know you're going to say Felix.
One was Felix and one was Julian Alvarez. Felix, he didn't push for. It was the CEO. I think that's been pretty widely confirmed that he wasn't the person driving that deal. It was the CEO. And that's part of the beginning of the end for a lot of people say Berta at Atletico that happened. And Alvarez was a lot of money, but he's on like 28 goals and assists this season. He's like 25. So I think to be honest, I think Alvarez one's a pretty good signing. Atletico, he's been a success. I think in terms of his track record of signing players, his track record of dealing with, even I looked at like the women's side, they had like a triple back-to-back domestic title. He's
What,
produced
Atletico Madrid?
Yeah, the women's side.
Didn't know that. This is why he's on the platform, man. He provides us with some info we didn't know. But go on, Alex, take us away, man.
He's produced some decent young players as well. But I think he comes into a structure, and what I really like is, and we're going to have to sort of piece bits together, is the way Arteta spoke about him in the press conference. And he said, you know, he can see the passion, he can see the way he thinks about football, he can see how ambitious he is. He's exactly what we need. New blood, so ambitious, so attached, and he wants to add value. And look, I think this is not a return to Raul Sanllehi's little black book, as they might say, of contacts. But this is also not someone who's just going to come in and be like, well, maybe we can pick up a £2 million player from here. He's going to come in and ask some difficult questions, and we need that.
And the thing I like about him is, as much as I like the romance around Arsenal and former players and all of those kind of things in positions, and he's going to come to love the club and whatnot, but I like the fact that he's not romantically involved. He hasn't got no ties. He's obviously got experience, but he's almost like cold-hearted, and he can provide a different perspective because he hasn't been here. I suppose right now he's going to be a fly on the wall, get up to speed with everything, see how everybody likes to operate and whatnot, and then get it going really and truly. I don't know if we're going to really see in a matter of months if this is going to be Berta's kind of window. Of course, he's going to help. I guess at best, he's just got to pick up the slack that Edu and Aito left in terms of anyone we sign in the summer, dot I's, cross T's, and suggest targets and whatnot. Clearly, me and you could sit here all day. We need a centre mid, we need a left winger, we need a striker, we need squad fillers and versatile players, and we need more depth. We all know what we kind of need. But then you look at our wage structure, and I know it's easy for me to say, and there's context behind, when we gave certain figures to certain players, and in hindsight, what's happened. But I would say it's a bit of a lazy view. But when Edu and Arteta first came in, our wages were a mess. They came up, ripped contracts, etc. And the one kind of thing I liked with Edu, we were getting contracts. It felt like we was becoming that club that gets contracts signed early, like even players that had 2-3 years left on their deal, they're getting the buffers, etc. But I do think with us where we're at now, I do kind of think we're in that kind of territory again. Like, how much do you think he has to dedicate his time to looking after the wage structure? Because you look at it, obviously Partey, Jorginho and Tini are gone. Kai's on 280 grand, not that I'm pocket watching. Jesus is on big money, and that's going to kind of cripple us. Zinchenko probably leaves in the summer, but he's on 150. You could even make a case for Martinelli on 180 grand a week. And it hasn't got Reece Nelson and Fabio Vieira's. But like, what do you make of the wage structure, and what do we do with this?
I think you made a point earlier. I think it's a good one. He hasn't got that emotional connection, and I think I'll name him with players like Martin Odegaard. I think he's going to come in and be like, okay. And by the way, we can have that conversation if you want, but he's going to come in and be like, okay, well, what I'm seeing,
have it, say a point, and then mention the Odegaard's thing, my boy.
There's a certain, I'm seeing this amount of production, I'm seeing this amount of performance level that doesn't match being what he will then be probably when Jesus leaves, probably the third highest player at the club. That doesn't match that. So what do we do about that? And that's quite a hard question to answer. I think those sorts of questions, and asking why Kai Havertz is the highest paid player at the club, those sorts of things, I think is really important, because then we'll have to just, within the walls of Colney, it's not just, well, Odegaard's been here for 4 years. He's been so important to our rise. Okay, is he important now? Is he the right player for us now? And
has he grown in stature?
Yeah, and I'm sure they asked those questions. Look, just quickly on that list of wages, the top 5 I think is a shame. I don't think Kai Havertz should be the highest paid player at the club. I think Jesus will leave, and that's a pretty crazy contract.
Probably not for a year, but he will.
Yeah, we might not be able to do that, so that's a concern. Deck deserves to be there. Odegaard right now doesn't deserve to be in the top 5, but that's a different conversation. Thomas Partey will go. So there is a little bit of work to do there. I think the likes of Saliba, Saka, Ben White, arguably, and probably there's going to be some new players who will become our highest paid players, and I think that's right. I do think that's right.
And even that, like, I do think, how do I make it make sense? So it's easy for me to criticize, but I kind of think it's a twofold in that I think last summer, I do think there was a bit of austerity measures and the budget we was provided. I like Calafiori, but you're being kept out by a young player. I like Mikel Merino, but your best period is coming where you kind of have to play. Sterling and Neto, respectfully to them, the less said, the kind of better. So you could say last summer or on occasions, as much as I think Arteta's got a lot right in terms of recruitment, there's also been a lot of duds. And then, you know, you look at Kai Havertz isn't a dud, but if you look at him and Merino, there was probably internal concerns with everyone, like, oh, I don't know if he's the guy. But fair enough, Arteta, rightly or wrongly, has been given his way. And then I shift it on to Edu. And again, I've never negotiated a deal like this in my life, so it's easy for me to sit here and criticize, right? But I think it's that horrible cocktail in that you've got Mikel Merino, who's 28 years of age, coming in to be a floor raiser versus a ceiling raiser. Had a year left on his deal on 130 grand a week at 28, 29. He's laughing. For us, I think this is where Berta shows his brilliance in that. I'm not saying he won't have things like this, but he gets a better deal or we kind of move away. Because I do think this season, this summer, I think more than anything, Berta is going to have to show his ability to pivot. By all means, if if we want Nico Williams, and we'll get onto Gyokeres, but if we want Sesko and Nico Williams and Gyokeres and Zubimendi and all these guys, and we don't get them, we need to be able to pivot. But also, if there's players that, you know, not everybody's unanimously agreed on, and Mikel Arteta gets his own way, I don't think you're going to see Mikel Merino on 130 grand a week, because obviously this does affect your ability to renew deals, bring in players, and move players on at any time. I can't move this on without you mentioned Martin Odegaard, and I agree with you in that. Probably at the time he got his deal, he was doing his thing. He is the captain. He is one of the more important players in the Mikel Arteta system. But if me and you stop that kind of analytical crap and we just look at it and say, do you know what, you're just not doing your job, are you as indispensable as a Saliba, as a Saka, etc.? Now I want to be nice, because there was a point this season we was begging for Odegaard to return when he was injured, but he's just not doing the job. I hope with Saka and all these guys he can do well, but you know my thoughts, because we spoke on this. I feel when we get into players like with my guy Martinelli, when we say he needs a left back, he needs a centre mid, he needs this and that, it is all relevant, but at the same time I think it's dangerous territory. But it's been a crap season for Odegaard. I don't think he was amazing yesterday. What was you going to say about Martin, man?
Well, just quickly before that, I've just looked up the Atletico comparison to Arsenal, and obviously you can play higher wages in the Premier League, but they have two players, on over 200 grand a week. It's pretty good, and the contract situation at Atletico looks pretty good. I mean, you know, for example, he's got Lenormand, who's just signed on 120 on a 5-year deal, who's playing great. He's got who is it? Not Rodrigo de Paul. What's his name? The guy who literally just signed, Julian Alvarez. Where is he? Where is Alvarez? There he is, on 130 grand a week on a 6-year deal, performing a 30 goals and assists performance. So yeah, I think there's some encouraging signs there in terms of sorting out the wage structure, because it's not terrible, but there's stuff to shape. Sorry, your question was
Odegaard. You was going to say something about him.
I think everyone watching, everyone in this chat wants Arsenal to win. So I don't want this to become a kind of player wars. I'm right, you're wrong about this player. I want Arsenal to win. But what I'm watching with Martin Odegaard, I have to be honest about, and he's not the Martin Odegaard of a couple of years ago. I look at the way he deals with contact, and I'm really worried about him physically in terms of that he just doesn't want the contact, and he's so easily brushed off the ball. And when you're playing in those inside spaces, it's a concern. I worry about his decision-making in transition. I worry about his shots. For some reason, it feels like he can't shoot after his ankle injury.
Just sorry to cut you, but even on that, like yesterday made no sense, because normally there's hardly any power in his shots. He's fumbling it over the bar and everything. Like his confidence is clearly on the floor.
He can't put his foot through it. I don't know what's happened there. And he can't finesse it.
A knock still.
Surely, I don't know. So there must be something physically, surely. But if there is, I'd love to hear about it. I think in terms of his influence, you know, his influence off the ball is always there. I think in terms of, you know, there was a moment in the second half he plays the ball to Timber. It's unbelievably weighted. It's so nice. But then I'm looking at Waneri and the separation he can create in inside channels, in more dangerous spaces. I'm looking at the purpose to his play. I'm looking at the tempo to his play. I'm looking at the ability to deal with contact, to roll contact. I'm looking at his ability to run with the ball, to make the right decisions in transition. Yeah, I think Odegaard's role needs to change, whatever it is. And no one will be happier than me to see Odegaard's role change, him find his form again, find his feet again, and be the right guy. but I'm looking at Zubimendi coming in the summer. I'm looking at Ethan Nwaneri, and I just don't know what the future is right now. I don't have an answer. I'm not sat here saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I'm saying,
well, no one ain't buying him when he's on 240 grand a week in this form. So his future's at Arsenal.
The solution to me is to drop a little bit deeper and ask someone else to be the primary creator. But then we're bringing in Zubimendi, so that doesn't make any sense. So
yeah, what are you going to do with Rice?
Exactly. So if he's going to be higher up the pitch, he needs to be able to deal with contact better. He needs to be able to get shots off quicker. He needs to be able to, I think, see the pitch and be less angle biased. There's a lot of things. So, yeah, concerning. Don't know.
It's a double-edged sword, man, because Odegaard, Arteta's role is Arteta's system is very complicated. Everybody's role ties into the collective, but individually, everyone's got a lot to do. And we know Odegaard leads the press. He gets into pockets. I do think even when he was in better form, there were times he wasn't getting the praise he deserved. But at the end of the day, I also feel if I'm praising someone for what they do off the ball and how much they run, if that wasn't Martin Odegaard and the sexy sort of player, I'd have more harsh comments. And at the end of the day, he's the captain. And I know I'm a bit more of a softer touch, but when you're ducking out of 50-50s, etc., I do have an issue. And also influence of the game, man. As much as I agree with you, and I've been saying that as well, can we drop him deep? Or you might rob him of goals and assists, which isn't the case this season, and give greater impetus to the team, kind of akin to what Santi was. I don't see Odegaard's kind of influence. And I don't mean this as a cop-out. There's got to be an injury there. He's still got to be playing with a knock. There's no way that ankle is fully fine, but that is not that much of an excuse. And I just feel, sometimes when somebody's in great form and they're playing out of their skin and it's like their form just keeps going and going, I also feel negatively that also happens. But like you said there in relation to Berta's got to be looking at this list and saying, you know what? Who's doing their job? Who's getting paid much? If you're not doing X, Y, Z, then your position we might have to ask questions. Everyone's got to pull their weight. We all know Saliba, Saka, and Gabriel Magalhaes, they should be within the top 5 earners, and I'd be shocked if their agents don't allow them to get into that. I hope with Saka's return or return of some sorts, because he did get like half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever that Odegaard's form up takes, but yeah, the class reaching Wonder Guard hasn't been that this season, man. Then I have to ask you, how do you feel, man? Because Arteta said it's going to be a big one in the summer and we're very excited about it. Do you think we have to get this summer spot on? Like, do you think Mikel Arteta has to deliver a trophy next season as well to appease fans?
Yeah,
I know you've been asked this millions of times. It's nice.
Yeah, well. Look, it's always context dependent. If we'd had the same type of season as 23-24 and in terms of the way it went and we had these results in terms of where we are, I would be furious because I would feel he's had a massive investment
5-6 years now.
Yeah, I would feel he had a massive investment in the summer. I feel he's got his players in, whatever. I do think we have a bit of a story issue at Arsenal, which I've talked about before, which is that the closest correlation to points and performance in this league is wages. Arsenal were paid the 6th highest staffing fees, so wages in the Premier League in 22-23. We paid the 5th last season. We are still growing as a team in terms of what we expect of our players. However, could we do better? Obviously we could.
Hit maturation now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so I think we come to a point now where next season, it might not even all be. I mean, it never will all be an Arteta, right? But it might not even be fair to say this is all Arteta. But it might just be time for a change if we don't see results again. Because there comes a point where I can deal with a season like this. Where you go, okay, you didn't quite get the forward. You've had the red cards. You've had the injuries. You've had the
just hit a glass ceiling.
You've had all these things. But if you have a season where actually most things are okay, you got another load of investment in the summer and you still didn't deliver, the cup performances were still what they were, things like that, then maybe it is time for a change, and I'll be open to that conversation. But I can't. I've never said this season that Arteta is not a problem. He is a problem and he's caused us issues. But if you rate Arteta as a bigger problem than losing the guy who was going to get 30 goals and assists, or losing however many points it is to red cards, or the way the season's panned out in terms of like how many late winners we've had ruled out, if you feel if you feel Arteta's a bigger issue, fair enough. I just can't get on board. I'm sorry.
The thing is with Arteta, like, I look at it on a twofold, man. I do think he's a very good manager. Like, just him, forget Arsenal for a sec, just him. I would love to sit there and speak football with him. And people can say what they want. The players that have worked with him or in and around him, the way even Anya spoke about how Arsenal's system is and all of that kind of stuff. I think he is good. The problem is I support Arsenal and you've done well for our club, but we're at this juncture. Are we getting over the line? And it's another year of explaining. Like you said, there is context, there's injuries, there's all of these kind of things. And it does play a part. But do I think we've improved in any aspect? Probably statistically. I don't think we're as good defensively, even when everyone's been fit. And I've said that since August, as we were last year. I definitely don't feel we're better than we was in the attacking sense the year before. I would say regression. People would say stagnation. And I also find the theme of complacency. You know, the saying, start as you mean to go on. I don't feel we put our best foot forward in the beginning of the season or in the summer, and everything's come to an end. I think we've kicked collectively as a club, like, what if Saka gets injured? What if Odegaard this? What if Saliba that? What if Gabriel that? I think we've had those questions and they've kind of happened. And then I also feel in terms of the controllables, what Mikel Arteta can control, I don't think he's controlled them all. I have to give some credit, you know, because we are still second and other teams would have fallen by the wayside. But at the same time, what the hell does that mean, really? It's another year of kind of just explaining. And if we are this good, if I do rate these players, if I do rate the manager, I genuinely believe within the last 3 years, maybe I'm being harsh, we could have won a league and retained it, or at least one. And I definitely think there's something with the cups. And if this is as far as Arteta can take us, which naturally I hope next season we win, there's no shame in that. You've done a lot, you've learned a lot, you've done your kind of thing. And I don't know how the power dynamic's going to work, because some people are saying, you know, we would internally or externally, we're being told that internally it's a partnership. Some people say, you know what, sporting director, if you're not getting your act together, he might sack you. At the end of the day, he's being paid 15 million a year. I do rate you as one of the upcoming managers. You've got to make it happen, innit, really? And it's another year of explaining. And I feel the club has to get next summer spot on. And I feel Arteta has to get over the line in something. Before I let you get out of here, Gyokeres, man, I don't know if I believe this too much, because Berta obviously was announced a couple days later. This comes out. What do you make of Gyokeres? Was he your first choice target? What do you make of him? Do you have any concerns about the Portuguese league to the Prem? Tell me everything Gyokeres, man, to wrap this up.
I don't like him.
Swear?
Yeah, I don't like him.
But you used to say if Arteta wants him and this and that, he's all right. No, I'm joking.
I'm just going to send you something.
We like Alex's opinions too.
Just send it on WhatsApp or private chat or...
Private chat, my boy.
Private chat. Okay, I'll just stick that in. So, I mean, sorry to do this, but if you want to hear more, I've got the Canon podcast has got an episode coming out on him today.
No, what do you mean? Sorry, promote that.
Gyokeres, there's a lot to like about him in terms of his goal scoring record. So no doubt there. I think he's got real striker's instinct in the box. I think he's a very he sniffs goals. We need that. We need that skill. Absolutely, no doubt. He scores lots in transition. So you could argue that maybe he's right for the club. But I just want to pull up the thing that I sent you, which is... I
got a bone to pick with you with this. I don't like him outside the box in game states we face.
Yeah,
I got a bone to pick there. But go on. Let's hear your case in court.
This is the list of the top goal scorers in the Portuguese league for the last 15 years. It's not pretty. And look, Gyokeres is the highest there. Let's be clear. And Gyokeres, let's be absolutely clear, is too good for the Portuguese league and should be in the Premier League. He's good enough. The question is, and we have to be clear what we're asking him to do. Are you the forward we've been waiting for forever, for the last 3 years, whatever it is? Are you the guy who's going to take us over the line to the Champions League, to the Premier League, to dominating Europe, to doing whatever Arsenal fans want to do? And I just have doubts. And the reason why, when he turns, it's not pretty. He's not good in the air. He won't get the spaces he gets in the Portuguese league. If you watch all of his goals, a lot of them on the transition, they're breakaway moments. It's just not what he does. It's just not who we are. He's a bit static in the box. Physically, he can be pushed off it if you get into the back of him. 18 of his goals are penalties this season.
What do you want him to do? 18. I mean, you're not going to get them penalties at Arsenal, but do you want him to not put the ball in the box?
No, of course I do. But my point is, Arteta is not going to change his entire game model of domination and final third control.
100% not.
Based off one striker to play to his transitions. What he would do is that whole thing of like we get a lot of high turnovers and we don't convert them to shots. He'd solve that 100%. But he would then cause us more issues in terms of breaking teams down because of his movement, in the way that Havertz can help, Saka and Martinelli, whatever. He would score nothing in the air. Honestly, he's
heading. He ain't scored that many goals.
Not good. He, I think, would get bullied physically. There's a lot of concerns
harsh with that one, but go on,
bro. Watch him when he turns and he's not facing goal. He does not want the contact, and a lot of his link-up plays really is stodgy. It's not good. So
you remember the Saliba Gabriel game where they locked him up, but he gave them problems.
He's facing them, but when he turns, if you turn him,
and
he doesn't want it. So, and then when you look at that and you look at the translation from the Portuguese league to the Premier League, I have concerns.
The exchange rate.
And then we come to the question of, okay, if he's 60, 70 million, wherever he is, Ollie Watkins was 5th on the goals and assists chart in the entirety of Europe's top 5 leagues last season. Get him for the same price. Victor Osimhen has a release clause for that, or would certainly come for that sort of price, and I have very few or much less concerns about him. Look, I'm not in any way saying Gyokeres is a terrible striker or whatever. He would translate in some ways to the Premier League, but let's be absolutely clear what we're asking him to do. We're asking him to come in and be the guy, as good as Saka. Do you think? Do we really score the goals, man? Yeah, do we really think he's going to do that? And I just have my doubts. Look, and I'm sure someone could construct an argument and say, no, this is
you're not wrong. They're the concerns I genuinely concern. But before you go on, I have to ask you then, like, if we're not going to get Isaac, who do we get if it's not Gyokeres?
I think the names. I think Watkins is up there. I think Ekitike is up there. I imagine, even obviously look at Sesko, look at Barcola. You can look at
play Barcola through the middle.
No, it's in. I think we continue with Havertz and maybe sign a new left winger. Semenyo's up there. Sesko, I think Sesko to me is baby Isak. He's not got the same sort of presence, I don't think, but in terms of when I've watched him physically, he's a freak. Physically, he would massively translate to the Premier League, in my opinion, Sesko, but he takes some time to adapt. So if you've got a Sesko plus, let's say, a Semenyo, you might have something. But Gyokeres on his own to solve our issues and be
he can't be on his. We need everything. Do you know what it is for me? Like, I hear what you're saying. Like, ideally, I want a talismanic figure, like what you said. You got Saka banging in the goals, and what an all-timer of a season he was having prior to his injury, and what he would have had that not happen. Isak's the one for me. It's not going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, and there's a surprise. It is what it is. I said I don't know if I buy this because he was linked with Atletico Madrid. I think it's easy to link, players that were linked with Atletico Madrid or do play with Atletico Madrid, obviously because of who we've got. I give it a lot of credibility, actually, because David Ornstein's spoken about it. When I look at it, developing a strong interest doesn't mean anything. But then I look at it, I share your opinion. I don't think you're getting 40-odd goals and all of these kind of things. I do think his heading could improve. I don't think you're getting that amount of penalties at Arsenal. But then I do think you're being a bit harsh, man. I do think at 26, this is as good as a move as he's going to get. I do think I've seen enough in terms of his channel play. He's dropping deep. He's not the fastest, but he's not the slowest either. I think he's a good thinker. I think his link-up play is good. I think there's been a good different range of goals per se. For me, I don't think you're undoubtedly the first option, and I'm head over heels. But then I also feel, we could do a lot worse. And the major thing you said is the thing I say is what we've got on screen, in that really and truly, these guys that were bagging in goals for fun in the Portuguese league, none of them are anything to really write home about. And also, like, for me, crucially, if we can't get the guys we want, who else are we going to get? I do wonder, though, is this obviously it's collaboration and whatnot, but is this an Arsenal signing or is this a Berta signing? Because obviously what's reported and what actually happens are different things, but it's all Sesko, Hugo Ekitike, those kind of development options. Kind of what you said earlier with Berta and win now mode and all of those kind of things. Maybe Berta's pushing this and saying, do you know what? Let's do this. The one thing that goes against Gyokeres that would go for Hugo Ekitike and the Sesko, and I guess extreme, but even Isak, is that simply put, them men are younger. So if it doesn't work out, you give yourself more margin for error. This man is 26 years of age. I don't know if it's going to happen. Like, there's genuine concerns. And you made a great point about Ollie Watkins. For me, though, I must admit, bro, I'm at that point now where get the striker in. I'll consider the concerns after. Like, if you sign imaginary world, but if you go and get Isaac, oh my God, is he going to handle the price tag? What's going on? Is the injury concerns? If we get Gyokeres, the points we've been saying, I just want the player through the door, man. Like, whether that's Gyokeres, whether whoever that is, just get me my striker, get me my left winger, get me my central midfielder. You might shoot me. I want a left back. I do want another left back, and we need to get goalies, man. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting.
Whatever happens, I'm an Arsenal fan and I'll get behind it. But I have to say my concerns, and I think there's
they're legitimate concerns as well.
There's better uses of funds than Gyokeres, and better solutions for our issues than signing Gyokeres, in my opinion. I think what you're saying about, look, yeah, we just want the striker through the door, and I think it's another thing. It's like getting it done early as well.
That's the major thing. That's the major thing. We need to get these signings in early. I know it's easy for me and you as armchair experts to say, get these guys in early. But I look at Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. When they signed very early, there has to be a correlation with them hitting the ground running. Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing. My last question for you then, man. Everton, talk to me briefly before I let you get out of here. David Moyes,
what's he got for us? I think he's got something. The league's done. There's no way we're getting it. But I think there's something. I think there is something. I think Liverpool against teams who can physically match them, if they can't run past them, we saw it at Goodison Park. I think they really struggled. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Top vid with Loz, man. Shout out Loz McKenna.
Appreciate it.
Cool guy, man. And what content you got to come out? Go on.
I want to say thank you to all the lovely comments in the chat. And obviously there's people saying various things, but there is one I want to come back on. I am an Arsenal fan. You're reacting to that.
I mean, what?
Bro, if I reacted to everything, we'd never get out of it. But just on that one, I think there is this thing of you're not a fan because you view things differently to me. You're a fan.
And that's the thing. Like, all the things people can accuse you for, you are an Arsenal fan. You are an Arsenal fan. That's why I don't even know how you bit the bullet there, man. And now look, big him up, but now it's gone to Alex. I love you. You're the best. So I don't take it in. The man's an Arsenal fan, bro. Like, he wouldn't be here if he wasn't. Like, and that's the beautiful thing about football, I find, yeah. Me and you could disagree on two different things. It's like you saying you believe in Odegaard, me saying I don't believe in Odegaard. But because I think one way and you think another, Alex is an Arsenal fan or DG is an Arsenal fan. It's like everybody is allowed different opinions. Opinions are subjective. Not once has Alex or myself said we're right or wrong about anything. I've just described both of us numerous times as armchair experts. The one difference we have over people in the chat is we're putting on opinions and faces on the line. So just allow us, man.
Do you know what's funny as well? Is like I always feel this is like I've said this about like Fabio Vieira. I've never rated Fabio Vieira. I would love to be wrong because Arsenal would win. If he shows me
Kivio the same.
Oh mate, I would love if Kivio goes out and then puts out a 10 out of 10 performance in the Champions League. Mate, I would absolutely love that. Love it because I'm an Arsenal fan first and foremost, and we all are. So there you go.
And that's the thing. Like, I like Arteta, but I don't love Arteta as much as some people. I want Arteta to be the best manager in the world. I want Kivio to be the best centre back. I want everyone that I have concerns about or anything that I feel negative or just not necessarily positive. I want to be wrong because, as Alex said there, it means we win trophies. It means we've got less to do in the market. But hey, man, you can never please everyone. Alex, it's been a great one with yourself, my guy.
My guy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, you got to come out, man. I can't imagine they don't know about your platform, but you have to promote when you come on this platform, man. You mentioned Canon podcast and all these things.
Yes. You can check me out Instagram, TikTok at DiffKnock. You can check me out on X at AM on football. And if you look up on YouTube, you can find me on the Different Knock and the Canon podcast.
There you have it, people. I mean, the Different Knocks YouTube channel's in the title, so just click that, subscribe to it, have a butchers. I did like the video. You did a video, can't remember the title for the life of me, but you basically the theme of it was like one injury not derails everything, but kind of does. And there was pictures of Rodri and that. Big fan of the editing style, big fan of the new studio, man. So keep going the next David Ornstein, man. But yeah, on that note, people, we're out, man. I'm back at 12:15, people. Alex, safe in a bit. Come on. Always